Welcome or welcome back to Pewdiepie. I'm Zui and I hope you enjoyed today's video. But before we get right into it, I'm obligated to remind you to click either the like or dislike button, commenting something down below, and of course sharing the video so more people can see and enjoy it. This is very important as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I want you to know that your help is greatly appreciated. If you have any suggestions or ideas for a story, my Discord link is in my link tree that is down in the description, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi for any donations you may want to send my way. Every cent counts. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video.
Your chains rattled, eyes heavy. The truck you had been on shook rhythmically as it drove across the highway. Not that you could see anything. You were in a kneeling position, your arms covered in heavy metal braces that made it too difficult to stand. Your ankles were chained to the floor of your container. It was a somber procession, one that filled you with a faint glimmer of hope. In front of you were two other individuals, Abel and Cain. Those were the names you had given them after their transformation. The two men were kneeling before you, their faces touching the ground as they mumbled quiet prayers to you, their lady. These men whose names had been long forgotten used to be criminals. Your captors, the global defense effort, had made them guinea pigs, to test your quirk on them. Cain was the stronger one of the two. His body now is Cain was the stronger one of the two. His body now a powerful mass of flesh and bone, covered in red sinewy spots where the skin teared open to reveal blood-red muscle tissue. Abel was the opposite. His skin was pale, almost as white as paper. A singular wing came out of his right shoulder, but where there should be feathers were countless black razor-sharp blades. You would have told them to sit more comfortably. Despite their brains being all but feral, you still cared about for their comfort. But your mouth was covered by a metal brace as well. The reason you were on this trip was your declassification from a code black end-of-the-world scenario threat to a more regular code red. And you were in the process of being delivered to a more residential GDE side. Due to your good behavior and a 9 out of 10 test result on the GDE loyalty test. Yes, you would never betray the organization. They were the ones who were right. The only way forward in this world created, ruled, and continuously threatened by defects, or more commonly referred to as quirks. As far as you can remember, you always lived inside 16 of the Far East branch of the GDE. You were the result of an illegal birth between two GDE test subjects. But you did learn about the outside world, both through a non-biased internet connection and a very biased GDE-approved basic education in Site 16. They had kept your body as weak as possible. Understandable. It's not like you needed physical strength anyways. That's what your servants were for, Cain and Abel. You thought about your new containment site, Site 13. The scientists who had approved your relocation talked about it having pools, a cafeteria where both subjects and employees ate. You couldn't wait. You looked so forward to this. maybe you could finally make a friend. You had read so much about friends, and even had written a 700-word essay about why you wanted friends during an empathy test many years ago. However, despite that, this heaven of humanity would be locked away from you, at least for the time being. As suddenly, out of nowhere, an explosion teared through the transporter. The shock threw you forward on your face. Unable to stand, tears were filling your eyes, as you quickly realized something was wrong. You watched as Kane and Abel tried to comfort and protect you from whatever the hell was going on outside. You heard shots being fired. You heard screams of pain, fear, and agony. You didn't know at the time, but 5 minutes before your life had taken this turn, a group of villains was lying and waiting nearby the highway. A girl called Himiko Toga, a man named Dabi, and 3 members of the Paranormal Liberation Front were stationed, ready to pounce. The organization didn't know what the Germans were transporting, as it was nigh impossible to get spies into their network. The ones who tried either converted to their cause, or were executed publicly after being found out, embarrassing the Paranormal Liberation Front worldwide. But a large convoy such as the one that was transporting you, that had to be worthy of being taken, whatever it was. So Dabi had reacted without really thinking about it, simply ordering Toga and his men to attack the convoy. The man hadn't had this much fun in months. One of the soldiers even managed to hit his shoulder, but he just shrugged it off. And those 2 things that were protecting the cargo, man, it was like one of Shigaraki's video games. However, what they were transporting, a small, fragile woman, covered in so much iron to keep her from moving, that was the real curious treasure. And not even Dabi could resist. And so, you were kidnapped. The last thing you saw of your promised new home was the burnt corpses of Cain and Abel, before a blonde girl with the second evilest grin you had ever seen knocked you out with the butt of a combat knife. When your consciousness returned, you realized you were lying in a bed without even opening your eyes. It was the smell of chemicals and the softness of the blanket that had been draped on top of you. It was giving away so much, as you could immediately tell that you were in a hospital, or at the very least a hospital wing of a larger complex. You didn't feel any pain, nor did you feel the heaviness of your restraints anymore. Curiously, you opened your eyes, scanning your surroundings without moving your head. The place was clean and beige. Definitely not a GDE building. The people who had attacked you must have been very thorough. There was a high chance the Far East branch was already searching for you. It was an embarrassment to lose a code red, especially if just a few days ago they were still considered a code black. You noticed a camera that was pointing right at your bed. Whoever took you knew you were awake. Emotionless, you stared at it. Seconds turned to minutes, minutes to hours, and finally, the door to your room opened. A skinny man covered in scars, with white hair, entered. Behind him, that blonde girl who knocked you out. And the burned man who killed Cain and Abel.
So, you are that important cargo, aren't you?
Hissed the white-haired man. You didn't respond. He narrowed his eyes. Already he was annoyed.
Why did the Germans transport you?
Your eyes shifted from the girl to the guy, back to the white-haired man.
Come on, say something, demanded the girl.
These two people killed my servants. I don't wish to speak in their presence, you said. And you could feel how the atmosphere changed.
What the fuck did you two do?
The burnt man explained the two monsters that were protecting you and what he needed to do to get to you. He ended his explanation by admitting that everyone had died but him, the girl, and you. Understandable. Cain and Abel would have never allowed to let you be taken.
Well, knowing the Germans, they fight to the last man. They were lost the moment you engaged them. Fine.
The white-haired man waved with his right hand.
Leave. I'll talk to her alone then.
Seconds later, you and the leader of these people were the only ones left in the room.
Who are you?
He hissed. I am GDE's Subject 0005, Code Red Defect User of the Far East Branch of the Global Defense Effort. The man blinked.
I mean your name.
That is my name. He shrugged.
Well, that's too long for me. I will call you Meat.
The man crossed his arms.
You look weak, Meat. What did they do to you?
You do not care about me, you said coldly. You ask in the hope I develop an emotional connection with you. You most likely will treat me nicer than you are used to treating people in the hopes I tell you secrets I know. You moved your head a little to stare straight into his eyes. However, I do not know anything. They were fully aware of the things they wanted to show me. They were fully aware of any information I consumed. They know exactly what danger my defect possesses to the world, and they even know how to fight my defect, hence why it had been changed to a simple code red. The man bit his lower lip. I do not lie to you, even though you are most likely thinking that. I will answer whatever question you ask of me, as there's no point in hiding it. If the GDE sees it as necessary, they will free me from your clutches, and in the process capture you and then execute you. If they don't collect me, so be it. This just means they have the means to eliminate me should I do whatever you order me to do. Finally, you smirked ever so slightly, the first shimmer of an emotion you felt in a long time. Your friends killed you and the people you command the moment they stole GDE property. The man shrugged, proving your insults were either not recognized or he was giving you patience.
Or you're worthless to them. Now they know how to fight you.
In a way. Precisely. He huffed.
Huh?
The moment they knew how to fight my defect, I became useless to them. The only reason to still keep me is because I'd still be able to cause tremendous damage for many, many years, and society on its own, if I wanted to. Most likely they started investigation already. It will be slow, but the moment it reaches its conclusion, I do not want to be you. If you free me now, I can walk my way to the next German embassy and claim I fled my captors. I won't be pointing fingers. I promise.
Yeah, that won't happen, doll.
I know. I'd like to experience what you have in store for me. Any torture you throw at me won't matter. I experienced worse. Any gift you give me will be rendered meaningless because of your ulterior motives. However, I am interested in who would be so foolish and stupid to attack a GDE convoy. Do you have a death wish? Or do you have a grand plan? Shigaraki was genuinely taken aback by you. That's why he hasn't exploded yet. He was intrigued.
Well, thanks for letting me finally speak, you little brat. I am Tomura Shigaraki, leader of the Paranormal Liberation Front.
Terrorists. I understand. He huffed angrily at your insult. You blinked. Well, continue. Shigaraki inhaled through his teeth.
The Liberation Front aims to overthrow superhero society and liberate all people, so they can use their quirks freely as nature intended.
Your left eye twitched, a sign of anger Shigaraki wasn't prepared to see. For a second he feared for his life. And his heart was beating faster.
What the hell? What was this?
You are the embodiment of all that I hate. Nature. What a fucking joke. So you knew what swear words were. But that sudden surge of emotions frightened the man even more. Nature is evil. Nature wants to kill us. Nature created quirks to rid the world of humanity due to the damage we caused in countless generations of man. The moment a being is born, its war with nature begins, and humans were the first to fight back in a way that was making us the victor.
You're talking about it like nature's a being.
All beings are, Mr. Shigaraki. We are bound to our biology, bound by our genes, bound by something our parents did on a careless night, most likely with good intentions, sure, but we have no influence over it. I wish to live in a world without defects, where humanity has moved past its nature, past its biology, past its biases. Shigaraki scoffed.
That's a utopia.
That is the goal of the Germans, the new German faith, and the GDE. It is directly in opposition to you. They want a world where survival of the fittest is no longer necessary, where humanity won its greatest war, the war of genetics and biology. You smiled, and you are the enemy. Tomura was deeply insulted, yet he shrugged, genuinely unsure of what to do.
You said you'd tell me everything you know. As you already see me as a corpse, correct?
Correct.
Then tell me, why are you important cargo?
It's my defect, you answered immediately. It is called the blood of Our Lady of Silent Sorrow. I was always a little proud of its name, as the tears of Our Lady of Silent Sorrow was the name given to Saint Clare's defect. She was the first saint of Germany, and the first leader of the new German faith. Anyways, my blood is like a separate being to me. In higher dosages, it causes mutations depending on the person's personality. I was considered a code black, as I could cause a potential end-of-the-world scenario with it. Shigaraki smiled.
I see. Very useful. Is there anything more?
You shook your head.
Well, mate, I'm not going to set you free.
I expected as such. Shigaraki inhaled deeply, before saying his goodbyes. The next few days went by in a flash. They fed you, gave you water. Shigaraki seemed to stay far away from you, only rarely showing up, maybe just once a day. You checked the TV they had placed in your room. The media had talked about the GDE losing valuable cargo. It made you smile. They called you valuable. The man who gave the press conference was a man going by Dr. Himekawa. He was the director of the Far East branch, and he had called it a declaration of war, and whoever was responsible for this would not be punished by the lackluster Japanese law, but by German law. You blushed happily hearing that. After that, you became more daring. You weren't chained down by your captors, so you began walking through your room. You weren't given real clothes, or more, you didn't want any. You were still in the white, tattered GD lab coat you had been wearing the entire time, and nothing else. And one day, you went outside. Your naked feet pitter-pattered on the tiled floors. It was cold and sterile. It would have made you feel somewhat at home if the building wasn't so open. And the people around you seemed to ogle you. Clearly they knew about your opinions of them. Not that you cared. Shigaraki's eyes had glowed when you talked about your defect. You weren't in any danger whatsoever. Meanwhile, Tomura sat in the security office of the building. He was watching you intently. You just didn't leave his mind. There was something about you he couldn't quite catch. Finally, he decided to meet you. By clenching his teeth, he entered the hallway you were skipping through.
So, what are you doing there, meat?
He asked without even greeting you. I want to avoid the cracks, or I'll break my mama's back.
How old are you?
20. My declassification to Code Red was my birthday present. Tomura gulped. You didn't look 20.
Why are you so casual about all this?
I know how important I am. You are greedy for my power. I can feel it. You gave him an innocent smile and he blushed hard. I know that. Tomura sighed.
There are no secrets here, aren't there?
No. Might as well have as much fun as possible, right? Giving up, Tomura joined you and began to skip across the floor tiles with you. The heavy mantle he was wearing making it considerably more difficult. But he managed. Well, at least until his final jump. Shigaraki fell. Reacting quickly, you grabbed his hand. A searing pain ran through your arm. You describe it as a 9 out of 10, and it was incredibly hard not to sigh from the agony. You could feel every cell in your body react to it, especially your sacred blood. Your skin cracked open, and like a spider's web it shot out, immediately holding your arm together as it was about to fall apart.
What the fuck are you?
Shouted Shigaraki as he found purchase thanks to you. Your fingertips had all but disappeared, revealing naked bone. The blood that was holding your arm together was pulsating. You hurt me, you said.
That quirk of yours!
I'm going to my room. This needs a few minutes to heal. Without saying another word, you left the man behind. Perplexed, he looked after you.
So much disrespect! He was almost going to scream.
Shigaraki sat alone. Once again, he was back in the security room, brooding over what happened a few days ago. Your hand was completely healed by now. He watched you draw with crayons on the wall of your room. He didn't know where you got them from, but he didn't care enough to take them away from you either. On his own, he was able to figure out how your quirk worked. Your blood, as you said, was a separate entity. It was weird. It was as if it had been staring at him. He felt levels of sentience from it. Could it be that your blood didn't cause a mind break, but rather a complete takeover of one's brain. He felt a level of interest he didn't think possible. What other things were the Germans hiding? Finally, someone else entered the room. It was Toga.
Hey, boss.
He didn't respond.
Oh, goody, you're watching her too.
She jumped up him and rested her arms on the table.
She's such a fun person, but whenever I go in there, she just stares at me.
She giggled.
I would love to stab her. What's wrong, Shiggy?
Asked Toga.
I can't stop looking at her. Oh, you're in love too?
Shigaraki scoffed.
I can't feel love.
Toga rolled her eyes.
Neither can she. You're similar, just raised by different people. That's a connection. A beautiful connection. I'm almost jealous.
Growling, the man retorted.
Stop gaslighting me into liking her.
Toga hissed and came closer to his ear.
I don't have to, you stuck-up prick.
Without another word, the girl laughed, before leaving the man alone again with his thoughts. He couldn't have developed feelings. That was so unlike him. He hated it. Angrily, he stood up, kicked the chair away and left the room. No, this had to be something different. Beelining towards you, he kicked open your door. And when you didn't react, he stormed towards you and grabbed you by the throat, slamming you into the wall.
You smuck little meat,
he barked. His quirk activated immediately, and you could feel it. Every nerve in your body responded with pure pain and agony. Your skin decayed, cracked beneath his fingers. The blood that before just covered your wounds retaliated, enveloping his hand. He too ignored the pain it was causing him. You were gasping for air as he pressed tightly.
You smug little shit. What is this you're doing with me?
With a well-aimed kick, you hit him between his legs, causing him to let go and fall on his knees. You yourself fell on the ground too. Coughing, you rubbed over your throat. That was a 10 out of 10 in pain, you had to admit. Seconds later, the man was back on his feet. With an angry grimace, he kicked you right in the face, catapulting you a few feet into the air. You coughed as you lied there.
Fucking react already!
He stood over you, his shoe crashing down on you over and over and over and over.
Say something, god damn it!
Over and over he stomped on your face. He didn't stop, he didn't relent. Not until he was so exhausted he needed to sit down for a moment. Meanwhile, you stood up and returned to your crayons. He was about to kick you again when you grabbed his foot with your left hand. I told you, no pain you inflict on me will have an effect. Your face was swollen, the blood underneath trying to rearrange your face to look normal again. And you knew in a few minutes it would. Maybe just a bit red. Why does it matter to you? Shigaraki bit his tongue as you continued to draw. He just watched. Why do you want me to react? Why is it so important to you?
I don't know,
he barked. Shigaraki didn't realize that he was tracing that feeling you had given him when your eye had twitched. You could hear his heart beating faster and faster. He seemed to be on the brink of a complete mental breakdown. Closing your eyes, you calmly got on your feet and approached the man. But I say to you, Do not resist an evil person, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, let him have your coat also. Whoever forces you to go on a mile, go with him too. Give to him who asks of you, and do not turn away from him who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? If you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentile do the same? Therefore you are to be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect.
Why are you giving me a Bible study, meat?
You leaned over him, swiped away a few strands of his hair, and gently kissed his forehead. I'm saying that I love you too. Shigaraki blushed, his pupils widening. You then placed your head onto his chest, listening to his rhythmic heartbeat.
What are you doing to me?
He hushed through clenched teeth. Without as much as a single twitch of your lips, you pushed him onto your bed, your thin fingers running down his coat, slowly unbuttoning them. I do not believe in your cause. I see it as wrong. I see you as my enemy. But I love you. I love you as much as you love me, and I have forgiven you for taking me from the people I love. I have forgiven you for hurting me. I have forgiven your sins. Shigaraki's eyes filled with tears.
Oh, you little shit!
He barked. As your fingers reached his belt, your eyes met his. You want this, don't you? You knew you wanted this the moment you kicked down my door. If anything, see it as an opportunity to have someone lie with you without the fear of killing them by accident. It will hurt, but I will not care. He hissed. It's human. He bit his lower lip, your fingers now pulling down his pants.
Can you at least smile?
Cocky, you replied. Only if you do a good job. And you stop calling me a little shit. Shigaraki smirked.
I'll call you meat then.
You leaned down on him, moving your hands up to his face, cupping his chin, looking into his eyes. Meat is fine, you said, before closing the distance, gently pressing your soft, clean lips onto his calloused ones. He groaned as he felt your tongue enter his mouth. Shigaraki's eyes widened upon feeling you explore his inside. Your tongue was long, practically wrapping around his, slowly jerking up and down. It was such an intense feeling. After this night of passion, Shigaraki had kept you for 3 more days, to let out his frustrations on you. But even he could no longer muster up the will to keep you. His plan was to beat you into submission and force you to bleed for him, to create willing slaves for the Paranormal Liberation Front, but your will would never waver. He understood that now. So without much fanfare, he let you leave his headquarters one day. Still dressed in your tattered lab coat, yourself having chosen to wrap your naked feet in bandages just to not get them dirty. Now outside, for the first time of your life, you looked up at the sun, smelled the fresh air of the strange town the Liberation Front called its territory. As you felt it shine upon your skin, you felt a heat that was almost unbearable. The smell was too strong. This was too much. Your body reacted with fear of the outside world. In front of you stood a taxi. A member of Shigaraki's men leaned against it. He would deliver you to Tokyo, to the German embassy. And from there you would probably go to Site 13. Hopefully. Finally. As you sat down onto the car seat, you looked back at the building. It had no windows, but you could feel Shigaraki's gaze.
Well, Miss 0005, was that it?
Are you sure you want to leave? Your quirk would be perfect for the army. Yes. I need to be with my people. But it was fun. I hope they spare all your lives the death penalty.